Have you ever let someone back into your life just long enough to regret it? I did. And it started with something that seemed so simple, so harmless, I didn't even blink. Just a knock on the door. A familiar face. A request that, on the surface, sounded thoughtful. Caring, even. But now, I ask myself, was it all a setup from the very beginning? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Sun was out. I'd just come back from grocery shopping and dumped 2 bags of cat food into a bowl big enough to feed a tiger. My cat, Artemis, blinked at me like she expected filet mignon. Typical. Then came the knock. You know that sound? The one that makes your stomach drop before you even know why? It wasn't loud. It wasn't rushed. It was that soft, rhythmic knock. Controlled. Familiar. I opened the door. And there he was. Jason. My ex-husband. We'd been divorced for 9 months. Not messy, not loud. Just a slow, quiet unraveling of 2 people who'd started as soulmates and ended as strangers who couldn't even agree on what groceries to buy. Jason was the kind of guy who always looked like he was just coming back from a jog or a job interview, clean, smooth, polished. Black jacket, sleeves pushed up. Eyes you couldn't read unless he wanted you to. And that smile. The one that used to melt me. This time, it just made my teeth clench. Hey, he said like we were old friends. Like he hadn't ghosted me halfway through the divorce paperwork. I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd check in. Check in? Who says that? I nodded slowly, leaning against the doorframe. Okay, and? He hesitated, then gave this casual shrug. Actually, I wanted to look at your old Camry. You still driving it, right? Immediately, my brain fired up the alarms. Why that car? Why no? Yeah, I said cautiously. Why? Jason gestured vaguely toward the driveway. I was just thinking about some of the brake issues you had a while back. Thought maybe I should take a look. Make sure everything's still good. You know, safety first. You ever have a moment where someone's being nice to you, but the kind of nice that feels like a setup? That was this. I couldn't tell if he was genuinely concerned, or if there was something else. Something behind the way his eyes kept darting to the side of the house. Still, against my gut, I nodded. He walked with this fake casualness toward the driveway, hands in his pockets like he wasn't up to anything. I watched from the porch. Didn't say a word. Just followed with my eyes. He crouched by the front tire. Glanced underneath. Fiddled with something I couldn't see what. Just checking the suspension, he called out. Looks fine. Just rust. Should probably get it detailed underneath. Uh-huh. Sure. A few minutes later, he stood, dusted his hands on his jeans, and smiled again. All good. Just wanted to make sure. Thanks, I said flatly. He didn't linger. Didn't ask to come in. Just gave me a half-salute wave and walked back to his car. Black sedan. Clean. Too clean. And then he was gone. I stood there for a moment, trying to figure out what the hell that was. You don't just show up to check someone's car unless you either 1, seriously care, or 2, have something to hide. I went about the rest of my day like nothing had happened. But it stuck in the back of my mind like a splinter. Not pain. Just discomfort. A constant itch of suspicion. The next morning, I woke up and couldn't shake it. I had this tight feeling in my chest, like something was just off. You ever get that? So I grabbed a flashlight. Slipped on gloves. Walked out to the car and crouched down. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe nothing. Maybe I just needed to prove myself wrong. But when I reached under the rear passenger side and felt a smooth rectangular object magnetically latched to the undercarriage, that's when my heart skipped. I pulled it off gently. It was black, no logo, no wires. Just a flat GPS tracker with a tiny green light blinking once every 3 seconds. My hand shook. What do you even do in that moment? Do you scream? Do you call the cops? Do you march to your ex's house and slap him across the face? I didn't do any of that. I took it inside. Laid it on the table. Just stared at it like it was going to explode. Then I called Carly. Now Carly is my best friend. She's the kind of person who says what you're thinking but wouldn't dare say out loud. The one who once faked a pregnancy to get out of a bad Tinder date. She picked up on the first ring. I found a tracker under my car, I said. No hello. No small talk. There was a pause. Then, that lying snake. You don't even know who it was yet. Please. Jason screamed, creepy tech bro, before he even knew how to spell Apple ID. I laughed. But only for a second. Then I asked the question that had been bubbling up inside me all morning. What if I send it somewhere? Carly paused. Like, throw it away? No, I said slowly. Like, mail it. Somewhere far. Somewhere random. Now here's where you need to understand something about me. I don't do impulsive. I plan. I calculate. But something about this, the fact that someone was tracking me, made me want to flip the game on them. Carly, naturally, was thrilled. Oh my God. Yes. Let's send it to frickin' Nova Scotia. We settled on Canada. Montreal. No reason why. Just far enough to matter. The post office was quiet. Old guy at the counter, name tag said Phil. I handed him a box about the size of a book, sealed tight. Inside, nestled in bubble wrap, was the tracker, still blinking. Phil looked at the address label. Sending a birthday present? Something like that. Hope they like surprises. I smiled. Oh, they will. I paid extra for express delivery. I wanted it there fast. I wanted it noticed. And then, I waited. That night, I turned off my phone. No calls. No texts. Just silence. Slept like a rock for the first time in weeks. I felt like I had finally flipped the power back into my hands. But power is tricky. Because when I turned my phone on the next morning, 17 missed calls. 3 voicemails. 1 text from an unknown number that read, "You made a big mistake." And then, the phone rang again. I picked it up. The voice on the other end wasn't Jason's. It wasn't anyone I recognized. But they knew my name. They knew where I lived. They knew what I'd done. And what they said next. It made me realize this was never about Jason at all. This was something bigger. Something I was never meant to find. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Have you ever answered a call that instantly made your skin crawl? Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't the tone, the timing, the eerie calm that told you this person knew more about you than they should? That was this call. I stared at the screen. No caller ID. You know how you hesitate, thumb hovering over accept, like answering might unlock something you can't undo? I should have ignored it. But I didn't. I answered. There was silence at first. Not the kind you get with spam calls. This wasn't lag. This was watching. Listening. Then a voice, male, smooth, emotionless, broke through like a scalpel. "Miss Reyes," he said. Not Emma. Miss Reyes. Way too formal. I didn't respond. Just stood there in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, blood draining from my face. Did you think sending it to Montreal would solve your problem? My heart punched the inside of my chest. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. He wasn't asking. He already knew. What you did was a federal offense. That's when I snapped back into myself. Who are you? I said, louder than I meant to. He ignored the question. Or maybe he just didn't need to answer. You have 60 seconds to explain why you interfered with surveillance property. Wait, what? Surveillance property? I blinked. It was a tracker on my car. Someone planted it there without my consent. He didn't argue. He didn't deny it. He just said that vehicle was part of an active operation. You've compromised months of intelligence work. Bull. I drive a 2012 Camry with coffee stains on the ceiling. What operation? That's when it hit me. This wasn't about me. This was about Jason. You've got the wrong person, I said. He chuckled softly. Do we? That laugh chilled me to the bone. Because it wasn't amused. It was confident. As if the game was already over and I just hadn't figured it out yet. Who are you? I demanded again. You should ask your ex-husband, he said, and hung up. Deadline. I stood there frozen. A single drop of sweat crawled down my back. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, like the walls were listening. That's when my phone buzzed again. This time, a voicemail alert. Not from the mystery number. From Jason. I hit play. His voice was sharp, controlled, but tight with something else, fear. Emma, you need to stop whatever you're doing. Don't talk to anyone who contacts you about the package. Don't answer calls you don't recognize. And do not go to the police. Then static. No goodbye. No explanation. Just don't go to the police. So naturally, I did the opposite. I called Carly. She picked up mid-yawn, clearly still in bed. Did we go viral? No, I said, pacing now. But I think I just got threatened by someone who knows about the tracker. Carly sat up so fast I could hear the sheets whip. What do you mean someone? I played the voicemail on speaker. Her silence afterward said everything. You think Jason planted that thing because he's in trouble? She finally asked. I nodded, forgetting she couldn't see me. Yeah, and now I'm part of it. She was quiet for a beat. Then, you need to call the cops. Jason told me not to. Emma, he also told you he wanted to check the brakes. He can go jump off a pier. I wanted to agree. But something about the voice on that first call, the tone, the precision, it didn't feel like a bluff. It felt organized, official, government adjacent. Still, I needed help. I took a shower, dressed in something that didn't scream nervous civilian, and drove straight to the local police station. Now here's where it gets weird. I explain everything to the desk officer. He looks at me like I just told him aliens landed in my yard. He asks for the tracker. I tell him I shipped it. He raises an eyebrow like I just confessed to arson. Eventually, he brings out someone higher up. Not a uniform. Plain clothes. Badge clipped to his belt. Name tag said Mason. Detective Mason. Mid-40s, graying at the temples, the kind of guy who carries his stress in the lines around his eyes. He brings me into a side room. Tell me everything, he says, and I do. Tracker, Jason, the mystery call, the package to Canada, all of it. He listens. Doesn't interrupt. Just watches me. When I'm done, he leans back and crosses his arms. This tracker, he says. Did it look military grade? I don't know what that means, I reply. It looked clean. Black. No wires. Just a blinking light. He types something into his tablet, then turns it to show me pictures. Any of these? I scan the images. My stomach twists. Second row. Third from the left. That one. He taps the screen. That's not consumer tech. That's proprietary. Used by private defense contractors. Mostly black ops surveillance. My mouth goes dry. Are you telling me Jason works for the government? He doesn't answer. Which is worse than a no. Instead, he says, if someone's threatening you, it's because they don't want this getting out. So here's the question. He leans forward. Do you want this getting out? What kind of question is that? I open my mouth, but my phone buzzes again. Blocked number. Mason nods. Put it on speaker. I hesitate. Then answer. Silence. Then, the same voice. This is your last warning. Return what you took. Or the next call won't be to you. Click. Mason's jaw tightens. We're escalating this. He takes my phone, copies the call logs, and pulls me aside before I leave. Stay off social media. No texts. No posts. Radio silence for now. I nod. But as I walk back to my car, I notice something. A car parked across the street. Windows tinted. It wasn't there before. I pull out my phone to snap a picture. But by the time I lift it, the car is gone. Later that night, Carly calls me in a panic. There's a black SUV across the street from my apartment. I grip the phone. It's them. She whispers, Emma, what did you mail to Canada? I don't answer. Because suddenly I wasn't the only one being followed. And this wasn't about surveillance anymore. This was about control. But what neither of us knew was that this wasn't the only device. There was another. Still watching. Still listening. And still exactly where they left it. Right under our noses. Have you ever had that moment where paranoia stops being paranoia and starts being proof? Carly had always been the tough one. The unshakable, unbothered, I'll post my location and dare you to show up kind of girl. But the moment I heard her voice trembling through the phone, I knew something had shifted. They've been parked there for 20 minutes, she whispered. Black SUV. Engine running. No plates. I gripped my steering wheel tighter. I was in a Target parking lot, sitting in my car, trying to buy myself a normal afternoon. But normal didn't exist anymore. Not after the calls. Not after the tracker. Not after him. "Are you inside?" I asked her. She peeked through the blinds. "Yeah." I turned off all my lights. "But Emma, what if they think I know something?" I was already starting the engine. "I'm on my way." As I drove, my thoughts ran wild. What were they doing at Carly's? She wasn't on the insurance for the Camry. She never even rode in it after the divorce. Her only connection to this whole mess was me. So why show up at her place? Unless this was never just about the car. I arrived 10 minutes later. Parked a block down. Didn't want to draw attention. Walked up the sidewalk pretending to be on a call. And there it was. Matte black SUV. Lights off. Tinted windows. Like something out of a spy movie, except this was real and the danger wasn't scripted. I pulled out my phone, angled it casually, snapped 2 quick photos. My heart thumped like a drumline. If they saw me, I'd play dumb. If they got out, well, I hadn't thought that far ahead. They didn't move. No doors opened. No windows rolled down. But they knew I was there. I felt it. I went up to Carly's 3rd-floor apartment. She opened the door without a word, pulled me in, locked it behind her. We stood there in the dim living room, both breathing hard. I said, "Have they left?" She shook her head. Then, almost jokingly, she said, "You didn't mail a bomb or something, right?" It would have been funny if it didn't feel so damn close to the truth. We went to the window together and watched. Still there. Still unmoving. "Call the cops," she asked. I thought about Mason's warning. No texts. No calls. Radio silence. He told me that for a reason. We needed eyes without alerting anyone. "Do you still have your drone?" I asked her. Her eyes widened. "You think they won't notice a flying camera?" "I don't care if they notice," I said. "I care if they follow it." It was a long shot. But maybe we could bait them. Carly set up the drone from her balcony. Sent it buzzing into the air like a mechanical wasp. It hovered above the SUV, paused, then veered down the block, toward the alley behind the building. And like clockwork, the SUV's headlights flicked on. "They're moving," I whispered. We both ducked below the window and peeked as the SUV slowly crept forward, following the drone's direction. They took the bait. We watched until the taillights disappeared behind the corner. That was our moment. I grabbed my keys. "Come with me." "Now." "Where are we going?" "To the car." She hesitated. "Your Camry." "No. Your car." "Mine's probably still bugged." We ran. Every step felt like we were being watched. Every turn of the head felt like it would reveal someone standing too close. We drove to a gas station 2 towns over. Neutral ground. Bright lights. Security cameras. Only when we stopped did Carly finally speak. "Why is this happening to us?" I wanted to say it's not us. It's Jason. But the truth was blurrier than that now. Jason didn't feel like the source anymore. He felt like a doorway. A way into something deeper. I opened my laptop and started digging. I still had the model number Detective Mason showed me, the tracker I'd mailed to Canada. I cross-searched it against blacklisted devices, intelligence leaks, even conspiracy forums. And then something popped up. A Reddit thread, buried deep under layers of paranoid rants and digital noise. Posted 4 months ago by a user named Afterburner Echo. Only one post. No replies. The title? "If you find one of these under your car, do not remove it. They'll know." The body of the post? Government contractor. Whistleblower. They're not tracking you. They're tracking what's near you. Proximity-based surveillance. Like bait. You remove the tracker, you trigger the alert. You become the variable. And they don't like variables. Then one final line. Don't think they're watching you. Assume they are. The post had been deleted 20 minutes after going live. But someone archived it. I turned to Carly, eyes wide. What if I wasn't the target? She blinked. What? What if I wasn't the one they were watching, but someone I'm around? She stared at me. Jason. I nodded. They needed him tracked. And the car was his connection. I was just the vessel. Until you removed it. Until I sent it across a border. That's when my phone buzzed again. Blocked number. I didn't answer. Not this time. Instead, I opened the text that followed. It was a photo of Carly in her apartment, taken 10 minutes ago while we were still inside. I dropped the phone. My hands went cold. Carly picked it up and stared at the image. "Oh my God," she whispered. That was from my kitchen window. They hadn't followed the drone. They'd split up. Which meant they weren't tracking you, I said slowly. They were watching me react, testing my response. Carly backed against the wall. What the hell do they want? I didn't know, but I was starting to understand how they operated. Not through threats. Through games. Surveillance games. Psychological games. And we were pieces on the board. That night, I drove Carly to her sister's house out of state. Somewhere off-grid. No Wi-Fi. No smart devices. I made her promise not to post anything. Not to call. Not to check in. Go dark, I told her. Like you never existed. She nodded, crying but silent. And as I drove back home alone, the streets felt wrong. Too empty. Too quiet. When I got to my apartment, something was off. Door slightly cracked. A draft in the hallway. My cat missing. But nothing stolen. Nothing broken. Just rearranged. I walked inside, trying not to breathe too loud. On my kitchen table was a manila envelope. No name. No address. Inside? A printed photo of my car. The day Jason visited. Underneath it, a post-it note with 6 words. You missed the second one. I froze. But then I remembered something Carly had said earlier that kept scratching at the back of my mind. You didn't mail a bomb, right? That joke, it wasn't funny anymore. Because what if Jason wasn't just watching? What if someone else was watching him? I had to know who I married. Not the man I thought I married. The one behind the polished grin, the late-night work trips, the encrypted messages I once brushed off as boring cybersecurity stuff. The one who knew how to disable cameras. Who checked doors twice without thinking. Who had burner phones before I even knew what those were. So, I went digging. Not physically this time. Digitally. Old emails, bank records, cached social media, anything that hadn't been wiped clean. And slowly, the cracks started showing. The Jason I knew had worked in IT. At least, that's what he told people. Something vague and forgettable like network security for financial clients. But his LinkedIn was bare. No photos. No endorsements. Just a list of vague companies that didn't show up anywhere else. That's when I started Googling his former employers. Most were dead ends. But one sent me spiraling. Signet Dynamics. Sounds fake, right? Like one of those made-up corporations in a bad action movie. Except Signet was real. Sort of. A shadowy consulting firm that got mentioned in a few lawsuits involving data privacy breaches and whistleblowers. No official site. No public address. No executives listed. But one deep dive article from 5 years ago described Signet as a private surveillance contractor operating at the intersection of government and corporate espionage. I stared at my screen. Jason worked here? I checked the timeline. He was employed there for 2 years right in the middle of our marriage. And I remembered. That was the time he started coming home later. Started locking his laptop. Started asking weird questions like, do you think people would panic if they knew how much of their data is out there? At the time, I thought he was just being dramatic. Now I was wondering if I ever knew who I was sharing my bed with. I printed what I found and drove straight back to the station. Straight to Detective Mason. He looked exhausted. Like he'd been sleeping in his office. His tie was loose, shirt wrinkled, but his eyes? Sharp. I threw the papers on his desk. Tell me what this is, I said. He glanced at them. Didn't flinch. You really want to go down this rabbit hole? I didn't answer. He sighed and leaned back in his chair. Signet Dynamics is one of those companies that doesn't technically exist. Their clients are people who want things done quietly. Could be law enforcement, could be private billionaires, could be foreign entities. And Jason worked for them? I asked. Mason nodded slowly. Off the books. We have partial records. He wasn't just IT. He was embedded in surveillance teams. Asset monitoring. Proximity flags. What's that? He hesitated. Then said, it means tracking not you, but who comes near you. Creating data maps of movements, patterns, relationships. Suddenly, the Reddit post made more sense. They were using me, I whispered. Using me to get to someone else? Could be, Mason said. Or they were using him, and you were the collateral. I sank into the chair across from him. How deep does this go? Mason tapped his pen against the table. You ever wonder why Jason divorced you out of nowhere? I looked up. He said he wasn't happy. Mason gave a half smile. People in his line of work don't just stop surveillance work. But if someone suspects their home is compromised, if they think they're being watched, they isolate. Cut ties. Go ghost. Divorcing you may have been the only way to keep you out of what he was involved in. That stung. Because as twisted as it sounded, it almost made him look protective. But that feeling didn't last long. Mason pulled out a small tablet, tapped a few times, then turned the screen toward me. What's this? Footage, he said. Public street cams from the day your package hit Montreal. The screen flickered. I watched a black van parked near the post office. Then, two men in suits stepped out, holding devices I didn't recognize. Who are they? Mason's voice was low. Not postal workers. We watched as they entered the building. 3 minutes later, they exited with a small box. My box. Package never made it, Mason said. They intercepted it? He nodded. They knew it was coming. They knew what was inside. Which means they were already tracking the tracker. Layers on layers. I was never ahead. Not even for a second. Then Mason looked at me and asked a question I wasn't ready for. Do you want me to bring Jason in? I froze. Do I? Do I want to face him? Do I want answers? Do I even want to know how much of my life was real? I nodded. Yes. Mason nodded once, then stood. I'll put in the request. But before I left, he stopped me. There's one more thing, he said. We found something in your apartment. I blinked. You went in. He ignored the question and handed me a small evidence bag. Inside was a tiny circular object, no bigger than a coin. A second tracker. The real one. The one they never meant for me to find. Mason said, we tested it. This one's transmitting constantly. Audio and location. Always on. And you think Jason planted it? He didn't answer. Which meant yes. I left the station and sat in my car for what felt like an hour. Rain started to fall. A slow, rhythmic tapping on the windshield. All this time, I thought I was reclaiming control. But the truth was, I'd been living inside Jason's plan from the very beginning. Married to a spy. Divorced by a ghost. Watched by strangers. Manipulated by a man I once promised forever to. And just when I thought I had nothing left to lose, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. One line. Ask him about Switzerland. I didn't even have time to respond. Because less than an hour later, Jason showed up at my door. And this time, he didn't come alone. What would you do if the person who shattered your trust walked back into your life with company? Not cops. Not lawyers. But two people who didn't speak. Didn't smile. Didn't blink. Because that's what was standing behind Jason when I opened the door. Two men. Identical suits. Black shoes. No expressions. The kind of presence that feels like a pressure in the air. The kind of men you only notice after it's already too late. I didn't say anything. I just stared. Jason looked older than I remembered. Not in the way people age, but in the way people burn out. His skin looked thinner. His eyes sunken. But he still had that signature calm. That cool, calculated demeanor I once found comforting. Now it made my stomach knot. Emma, he said, like he hadn't left a void in my life. We need to talk. I glanced at the two mannequins behind him. Do they talk too? They're here to make sure you're safe. Funny. I felt safer before you showed up. He actually winced. I'm serious. Let me in. Please. I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to shut the door in his face and run. But I didn't. I let him in. Why? Because if someone shows up with handlers, something's wrong. And I needed to know how wrong. The two men stood inside my entryway like statues. Silent. Watching. Probably recording everything. Jason walked past them and into my kitchen like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I know you've been getting calls, he said, turning to face me. I know about the second device. I know about the package. I folded my arms. Do you know about the photo someone took from inside Carly's apartment? He flinched at that. Just a twitch. But I caught it. They're getting sloppy, he said. They? Jason, what is going on? He pulled something from his jacket. A small folder. Inside were papers redacted, yes, but one had a stamp I recognized from the signet documents. Top corner. Government-style seal. Classified. He laid them on the table like confession. You were never the target, he said. I was. Then why was I being tracked? Because you were the safest place to hide what I took. My heart stopped. What, you took? He nodded. I stole something. I laughed. Jesus, Jason. I mailed a stolen what to Canada. Not the item itself. Just the location signature. The device was a relay node. It pinged off a vault location embedded in the tracker's firmware. English, please. He sighed. You know how people can hide files inside images? Metadata? Same concept. The tracker wasn't tracking you. It was carrying a signature. A dead drop for stolen data. Coordinates, encrypted code. You moved it, so it triggered the failsafe. Which is, they activate full sweep mode. They watch everyone you know. Everyone you contact. Everyone who's ever sat in your car. Until they find me. I stared at him, stunned. You used me. He looked me dead in the eye. I trusted you. That line hit like a slap. Not because it was touching, but because it was so wrong. Don't twist this, I snapped. You planted a surveillance device in my life. You let them crawl all over me. To protect you. I leaned in. You don't get to say that. Not after letting someone photograph Carly from inside her home. Jason's face darkened. They did what? Oh, you didn't know that part. He swore under his breath, turned to the two men in suits. Spoken low, fast words I couldn't hear. One nodded and stepped out. I told them to stay out of civilian spaces, Jason said through gritted teeth. That's not supposed to happen. Oh, so now you care? I always cared, Emma. Then what the hell is Switzerland? That stopped him cold. He turned ghost white. Where did you hear that? I pulled out my phone. Opened the anonymous text. Showed him. Texted to me an hour before you showed up. Jason sat down slowly, like the weight of the word hit harder than any punch. Switzerland, he said, was my last assignment before I disappeared. What kind of assignment? He hesitated. Then, extraction. Data. Intelligence tied to private biotech contractors. Something big. I got greedy. I copied part of it. Thought I could sell it to disappear. But Signet found out. And then I ran. I stared at him. You stole from the people who trained you to disappear others. He nodded. And I used you to hide. Everything clicked. The late-night work calls. The constant paranoia. The controlled way he moved even after we divorced. He wasn't paranoid. He was watched. You didn't divorce me to protect me, I said. You did it because I was your safest hiding place. He looked up. Eyes tired. I divorced you because I didn't want to need you. And I knew I was putting you in danger just by being near you. There was a silence. One I couldn't fill with sarcasm or rage. Because even though I hated him in that moment, I saw the truth in his face. The regret. The guilt. But also the calculation. He wasn't done using me. I knew it before he said it. I need your help, Jason said. No. Emma. No. You don't get to ask for anything. He opened the folder again. Pulled out one last item. A photo. Of me. From 2 days ago. Inside my apartment. Holding the envelope I thought no one had seen me touch. I didn't take this, he said. My blood ran cold. They're not just watching you anymore, he said. They think you have the file. I don't. They don't care. He stepped closer. Emma, they think you're the leak now. 1,000 thoughts ran through my head at once. I'd been tracked. Manipulated. Exploited. Carly had been targeted. My apartment had been breached. And now I wasn't just a bystander. I was the suspect. But you can fix it, Jason said softly. The original file, it's still buried. Still safe. You just have to help me get it back. If we retrieve it before they do, we can clear you. Walk away. And if we don't? Jason didn't answer. Because we both knew what that meant. They'd burn me. Erase me. Make me disappear in every way that matters. I looked out the window. Another car had pulled up down the street. No plates. No lights. Different model this time. But same feeling. They're not stopping, I whispered. No, Jason said. They're closing in. And that's when my phone buzzed again. This time, not a text. A call. From Carly's number. But when I answered, it wasn't her voice. It sounded like her. Same pitch. Same rhythm. But the words? They weren't hers. Stop asking questions, the voice said, or next time, we send someone else. Click. Jason looked at me. What did they say? I held the phone out with a shaking hand. They're already using her voice. Jason's face went pale. That's not surveillance anymore, he whispered. That's extraction prep. What does that mean? He didn't answer. But I could see it in his eyes. Someone had activated the final stage. And I was already on their list. You ever hear your best friend's voice say something she'd never say? I'm talking about the pitch-perfect rhythm, the familiar little pauses, everything. But then the words? Cold. Robotic. Chilling. That was the call I got. It sounded like Carly. But it wasn't. Stop asking questions, or next time, we send someone else. 6 words. All wrong. Jason looked like he'd just watched a ghost walk into the room. The blood drained from his face. He reached out and snatched the phone from my hand, tapped on the screen, and replayed the message. He didn't even let it finish. Deepfake vocal signature, he muttered, jaw tight. High quality. Real-time modulator, probably signal hijacked through her contact ID. I blinked. Can we please speak English for a second? Jason looked up. They're using synthetic voice tech. It's not a recording. They cloned Carly's voice. They can make it say anything. Even live. That landed like a punch in my chest. They spoofed her. He nodded. Why? He didn't answer at first. Instead, he paced. Then finally, he looked at me and said the worst possible thing. To make sure you know you're alone. I sat down hard. This wasn't surveillance anymore. This was warfare. Silent, digital, and precise. And I was losing. Jason leaned against the counter, hands gripping the edge like he might break the granite. When I went dark, he said, I used protocols meant to bury me. But I didn't follow them all the way. I left breadcrumbs. I thought if I ever needed to come back, I'd want to trace my way out. He looked up. They followed the same trail. And now they're erasing every connection I left behind. Starting with me, I said. He nodded. They don't need to kill you, Emma. They just need to discredit you. Make it look like you were never trustworthy. Like you lied about everything. Once that happens, you disappear without a sound. I shook my head. No one would believe I'd help someone like you. Jason raised an eyebrow. Wouldn't they? You mailed a classified device across the border. Without telling anyone. Without alerting the authorities. He wasn't wrong. It hit me hard, how easy I'd made this for them. All they had to do now was make me look like the villain. And the real terrifying part? They didn't even need to kill me to destroy me. Just a fake voicemail here. A manipulated message there. Fabricated footage. Digital fingerprints I didn't leave. One edited deepfake, and suddenly I'm confessing to crimes I've never even heard of. Jason was already pulling his laptop out. Old. Bulky. Covered in stickers I didn't recognize. He plugged it into a black box the size of a remote control and powered it on. What is that? I asked. Air-gapped forensic node, he said. Completely offline. Can't be traced. Yeah, I'm still stuck on deepfake Carly. He gave a half smile. I can trace where the signal spoof came from. But if they used mesh rerouting, it won't be easy. Do it anyway. He nodded and got to work, fingers flying across the keyboard like he was cracking into a vault. I sat there, staring at my phone. Carly hadn't called again. No texts. No updates. She was off-grid. I made her go off-grid. So how did they get a voice sample that good? I looked up. How much of her voice would they need to do this? Jason didn't stop typing. Less than 60 seconds. If they have clean audio, voicemail, podcast, video post, anything with minimal background noise, they can build a near-perfect model. I swallowed hard. Carly had a podcast. Only 4 episodes. Some casual lifestyle advice. Small following. But the audio? Crystal clear. Jesus, I muttered. They didn't even need to hack her phone. They didn't, Jason said, eyes still on the screen. They just needed her voice. That's the game. Don't break in. Just scrape what's already public. My stomach twisted. Every voicemail. Every IG story. Every moment I thought was harmless. Fuel. Jason stopped typing. His screen blinked. Then, match found. Node origin 42.9831 degrees north, 81.2432 degrees west. What's that? He spun the laptop toward me. London. London, UK? London, Ontario. I stared. You're telling me someone spoofed Carly's voice from Canada? He nodded. They rerouted through at least 6 proxies, but the signal originated in a secure node just outside of London. Looks like a digital dead drop site. Probably where they staged the voice clone. My heart raced. Was it tied to the device I mailed? Jason paused, then slowly nodded. Yeah, that's the same quadrant. So there it was. Confirmation. Me mailing that tracker didn't just set off alarms. It woke up something. Jason looked at me carefully. You're not just being observed anymore. You're part of the operation. Why? Because they think you still have something. Or that I gave it to you. I don't. They don't care. I paced the room, trying to think. Trying to breathe. Every time we peeled back a layer, there was another. And now? Now they had Carly's voice. Who's next? Me? Jason shut the laptop. We don't have much time. For what? For you to disappear before they replace you. I turned. What do you mean, replace me? Jason hesitated. Then he said it. They have the voice. Next comes the face. The movement. AI avatars, fake interviews, fake confessions. They'll start seeding evidence in forums, buried Reddit posts. Maybe a leaked DM thread. A fake argument with Carly. Enough to make people question who you are. But I haven't done anything. You don't have to. The story writes itself. They just need to make you look unstable. Unreliable. A risk. He stepped closer. You're one viral video away from becoming a public scapegoat. And once that happens, they burn the original. They burn you. I sat down, dizzy. This was real. This wasn't just government tech. This was narrative warfare. And they were winning. Jason kneeled in front of me. I can make you vanish. Really vanish. But we have to go now. Because the next time you hear Carly's voice, it might not be a warning. I looked up. What might it be? Jason's voice was barely a whisper. A goodbye. And as if on cue, my phone buzzed again. New voicemail. Unknown number. I hit play, hands shaking. Carly's voice again. Only this time? She was crying. Emma. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. They found me. I told them. Static. Then silence. Jason and I locked eyes. They've got her. I stood. We have to go. Jason nodded, already packing his gear. And as we stepped out the door, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about getting her back. But what we didn't know was that they had a backup plan. And it was already in motion. Do you ever get the feeling you're being watched from inside your own life? Not just followed. Not just tracked. I mean observed. Listened to. Studied. That feeling where you look around your home and think, what if this place isn't mine anymore? That was me, the moment we crossed back into my apartment. We weren't supposed to come back. Jason said it was too hot. Too risky. But there was something pulling at me. A loose thread in my memory. Something I missed. And I couldn't leave without knowing. 5 minutes, I told Jason as I shut the door behind us. I just need to check one thing. He didn't argue. Just scanned the corners of the ceiling and muttered, make it 3. I dropped to my knees and started unscrewing the rearview mirror from the dashcam system in my car keys drawer. It had been bugging me ever since the envelope. You checked under the car, Jason said. You found one tracker. I nodded. But did you check inside the car? Inside the cabin. My hands froze on the panel. No, I whispered. I didn't. He crouched beside me. Most people don't. They look for magnets. Outside placements. But the smart ones? They put the real hardware where you talk. I popped off the mirror casing. And there it was. Another device. Half the size of a lipstick tube. Tucked so neatly into the wiring harness, I would have never spotted it if I wasn't looking straight at it. It was blinking. Red. Jason's voice dropped to a whisper. That's a live mic. How long has it been there? Too long. I pulled back, suddenly repulsed by my own space. Everything I've said, Jason nodded grimly, was probably being streamed. I stared at the device. The blinking red eye. The silent witness to every private moment I thought I still had. They hadn't just tracked me. They'd studied me. Every call with Carly. Every whispered suspicion. Every late-night cry where I begged the universe for answers. All of it. Captured. Analyzed. Weaponized. Jason pulled a Mylar bag from his pack, slid the device inside, and sealed it. No signal gets out now, he said. We've got a small window before they notice the drop. I sat back, shaking. I was never alone, I whispered. No, Jason said. You were never supposed to know. I looked up at him. Why no? Why reveal it now? Why let me find it? He hesitated. They didn't. What? They didn't leave that envelope for you. I blinked. What are you talking about? Jason pulled something from his bag, a printed scan of the envelope photo. He circled the angle the picture was taken from. See that reflection in the window? I looked closer. It was faint. But there, just barely, you could make out the curve of my front door. Jason tapped it. Whoever left the envelope didn't leave it as a warning. They were watching the moment you found it. They wanted to know how you'd react. So it was a test? Jason nodded. And now we've failed. My mouth went dry. How? By going back. By grabbing the second device. By confirming it was real. He stood up. They know you're aware now. Which means the clock's ticking. I looked around my apartment like it was a stranger's house. The walls felt too tight. The air too still. Everything fake. How do we stop this? I asked. Jason didn't answer right away. Then he said, we don't. We flip it. I turned to him. Meaning what? He crouched in front of me again. We use the device. Leave it active. Feed them what we want them to hear. A fake story? A trail, he said. Something to get them off Carly. Something to reset the board. My heart jumped at her name. You think she's still alive? Jason hesitated. They haven't sent a proof of death. That's not exactly comforting. He looked me in the eye. If she was dead, they wouldn't need her voice clone anymore. That made my skin crawl. So she was alive. But for what? As leverage? Or as a puppet? Jason stood. We need to go dark, then go loud. I frowned. What does that mean? Disappear physically. But make noise digitally. Throw them bait. A story that looks just real enough to chase. And while they're chasing. He paused. We find Carly. How? He pulled out a USB stick. Plugged it into his laptop. The real file. The one they think I stole. Yeah. I know where it is now. My heart froze. You lied to me. I wasn't sure, he said quickly. I didn't want to say anything until I could confirm. But the location ping from the first tracker, it was a buried file. Encrypted inside a geotagged photo. Of what? He turned the laptop toward me. A grainy satellite image. Of a warehouse. In Montreal. Where the tracker was delivered? I asked. Not just delivered. Activated. The moment it crossed the border, it pinged this site. That's where they went to retrieve it. He zoomed in on the coordinates. That's where they took Carly. I stared at the screen. Then at Jason. Then back at the device on the table. Then we give them what they want. Jason looked at me carefully. You're serious? I nodded. We feed them a story. Something dangerous. Believable. But fake. He smiled, just slightly. You've changed. I met his eyes. So have you. He packed up the laptop, and I pulled out my phone. Started recording a voice memo. My name is Emma Reyes. If you're hearing this, it means I've found what they're looking for. Jason raised an eyebrow. Make it messy, he said. Make it sound real. I nodded. And I've decided not to keep it. I'm uploading the file. Tonight. At midnight. To 3 different servers. If anything happens to me. He smiled. Perfect. I ended the memo. Uploaded it to a dummy account. Timed it for a midnight drop. Then, we turned the second tracker back on. Jason watched it blink. They'll hear it, he said. Good, I replied. Let them come. We left the apartment minutes later. Headed for the border. Headed for the warehouse. Because if Carly was still alive, we were bringing her home. But what we didn't know was that someone else was already waiting. And they had no intention of letting any of us leave Montreal alive. What would you do if your only way out was through him? Jason. My ex-husband. The man who dragged me into this. The man who may be the only person who can get me out. And also the one I might have to betray before he betrays me. Because when we reached Montreal, everything changed. It didn't feel like a rescue mission. It felt like an ambush waiting to happen. We crossed into Canada just after 4 a.m. Through a secondary checkpoint. No questions. No flags. Jason's contacts still had reach. Still had pull. But there was tension in the air. A pressure that hadn't been there before. Like someone somewhere was watching every move and waiting for us to make the wrong one. The warehouse was in a dead zone outside the city. Old shipping hub. Long abandoned. Brick cracked, windows blown, weeds thick enough to cover tire tracks. No security. No movement. Too quiet. Jason parked 2 blocks away and cut the engine. We walk from here. I pulled my jacket tighter. You think she's inside? Jason didn't look at me. I think what's left of this operation is. That answer didn't help. We moved fast and silent. Through back alleys and a fence slit open by bolt cutters. Jason led like he'd been here before. Like the place remembered him, even if it was falling apart. We reached a side entrance. Steel door. New lock. Jason reached into his bag. Pulled out something that looked like a garage door remote. Pressed a button. The lock clicked. I stared. You bugged this place? He nodded. Years ago. Back when it was a dead drop site. Never thought I'd come back. He pushed the door open. And we stepped into the dark. It smelled like mold and rust and old secrets. Our footsteps echoed. Rows of empty shelves. Stacks of collapsed crates. Nothing moved. And then, a single light overhead flickered on. And there she was. Carly. Tied to a chair in the middle of the floor. Eyes wide. Mouth taped. Wrists bound. Alive. I ran. Carly. Jason grabbed my arm. Wait. I froze. What? He pointed up. To the rafters. There were 2 red laser dots tracing across the concrete floor. Moving. Sweeping. Snipers. I told you, he said, they were waiting. I stared at Carly. She was struggling now. Thrashing. Then I saw it. Wires. The chair legs were rigged. Pressure triggers. Don't touch her, Jason said. Not yet. I wanted to scream. Instead, I turned to him. What do we do? He looked at me. And then he did something. He stepped forward. Slowly. Arms out. No weapons. No sudden moves. And he said loud and clear, it's me. You want me? I'm here. His voice echoed. And then? A door opened across the room. 2 men entered. Not the same suits. Not even the same style. These weren't Signet. These were freelancers. Rogue cleanup crew. Jason's face went tight. Mercs. How do you know? Because Signet doesn't send cleanup. They send erasure. These guys want the file. Which means they think we still have it. Jason nodded. The 2 men flanked the room. One held a tablet. The other carried a rifle, no attempt to hide it. The one with the tablet spoke first. You weren't supposed to come back. Jason stepped closer. And yet, here I am. Tablet guy tilted his head. You have the key? Jason didn't blink. I have something better. And she. Tablet guy pointed at me. She's my leverage. I froze. What the hell are you doing? Jason didn't look at me. Then the man with the rifle turned to me. You know the file location? No, I said quickly. Jason cut in. She does. I spun to face him. Jason. He looked at me calm, cold. And he said, tell them. That moment broke something inside me. Because in that split second, I thought he'd sold me out. I thought he was handing me over like a chip. And then he did something unthinkable. He winked. A tiny twitch of his eye. Blink and you'd miss it. I froze. Jason turned back to the men. She memorized the decryption passphrase. It's embedded in her voice pattern. You need her alive. Tablet guy hesitated. Prove it. Jason smiled. Play the voice message from her tracker. The man tapped his tablet. And my fake confession. The voice memo I'd staged played out loud in the warehouse. My name is Emma Reyes. If you're hearing this. And while they were distracted, Jason moved. He pulled a trigger from his coat, tiny, flat, black, and hit a button. The floor lit up. EMP burst. The lights exploded. The tablet sparked. The snipers above scrambled. I dove to the ground. Gunfire. Jason rolled, grabbed the rifle off the stunned merc, and fired twice, non-lethal. Body shots. He ran to Carly. Cut the wires. Pulled the tape from her mouth. She gasped, coughing, blinking in shock. I was frozen. Jason turned to me. Now, Emma. I ran. We got her out. Through the side, past the fence, back to the car. Heart pounding. Carly sobbing. Jason covered us the whole way. Once inside the car, I turned to him, still shaking. You lied to them. He nodded. You used me again. He looked at me finally, honestly. I gave them a choice. Me or you. And they chose me. He smiled, but it wasn't proud. It was broken. That's how I knew they weren't Signet. Signet doesn't choose. They eliminate. Carly clutched my hand. I thought I was going to die, she whispered. You were, Jason said. Until we flipped the board. I looked at him. We're not done, are we? No, he said. Not yet. Because there was still one more thing he hadn't told me. Something bigger than the file. Something that would explain everything. The tracker. The voice clone. The operation in Switzerland. And why, after everything he'd done, they still wanted him alive. You'd think the story ends there, right? We got Carly back. We escaped the trap. We survived. But stories like this? They don't end clean. Because there was still one thing hanging in the air. Why didn't they kill Jason? Why go through all the surveillance, the games, the synthetic voices, the staged threats, the fake rescue mission, all of it, just to not pull the trigger? That question haunted me the entire ride back across the border. Carly slept in the back seat, arms curled against the window like she was trying to disappear into the glass. Jason drove. I watched him in the mirror, wondering if I ever really knew the man behind the wheel. I waited until we were far enough out. Past the gas stations. Past the quiet, blinking motels. Into nowhere. Then I asked, why do they still want you alive? Jason didn't answer right away. Then he said, almost too quietly. Because I'm the insurance policy. What does that mean? He took a breath. A deep one. Then he finally said it. I didn't just steal a file in Switzerland. I didn't just copy data. I took something living. I stared. What? Jason pulled the car over. We were in the middle of a field. Moonlight casting long shadows across empty farmland. No lights. No people. Just us. He reached into the glove box and pulled out a small, cold storage drive. Metallic. Smooth. Coated lock blinking green. I downloaded it to this. It's biometric locked to me. No one else can open it. Not even Signet. Downloaded what? Jason looked me dead in the eyes. Names. That one word hit harder than a gunshot. Names? I asked, throat dry. Code names. Real names. Affiliates. Contractors. Agents. Every off-book operative assigned to proximity manipulation protocols. Including the ones who weren't supposed to exist. You mean, assassins? Jason nodded. And worse. My skin crawled. You kept it. This whole time. He nodded again. They didn't just want it back. They needed it buried. That's why they didn't kill me. Because if I die before it's unlocked, the drive bricks itself. I looked at him, horrified. All of this, everything you dragged me into. Jason's voice didn't waver. Was to keep it safe. By using me as your decoy. He flinched. Yes. Carly stirred in the back seat. Half awake. Mumbled something. Went quiet again. I looked out the window. Darkness pressed in on all sides. And I realized something. This never ends. Because people like Jason don't just vanish. They pull others in. I want out, I said. Jason looked at me surprised. Emma. No. I'm done being your cover. I'm done running. Done watching people I love get turned into voices on a phone. Done second-guessing every step of my life. He said nothing. I turned to him fully. I want you gone. His expression cracked. Not in anger. In understanding. Okay, he said softly. Give me the drive. He hesitated. Then handed it to me. Cold. Heavy. A Pandora's box. I held it in my hand, staring at the glowing biometric pad. If I open this, you'll be hunted. Then why give it to me? He looked at me with something like respect. Because I don't want to be the one carrying it anymore. And you're the only person I've ever trusted to do the right thing. I didn't respond. I opened the door and stepped out into the field. He followed. We walked 50 feet into the tall grass. The wind was soft. The sky endless. I turned back to him. This is where it ends. Jason nodded. You vanish. For good, I said. He nodded again. No emails. No shadows. No showing up at my door. No more trackers. If I ever hear your voice again. You won't, he said. And for once, I believed him. We stood there in silence for a moment. Then I handed him a burner phone. Untraceable. Set to one number. If I open this drive and it kills me, you call the press. You leak it. Everything. He looked at the phone. Then at me. No. You owe me, Jason. I don't want you to die. Then don't make me regret trusting you. Not again. He took the phone. Tucked it into his coat. And, just like that, he turned and walked away. Into the trees. No goodbye. No drama. Just gone. I stood there for a long time. Holding the drive. Weighing it in my hand like the weight of a choice I never asked to make. Later that night, I dropped Carly at a safe house. Off-grid. No phones. No mirrors. Just safety. She didn't ask questions. She just hugged me like someone who knew this wasn't over. And me? I vanished. Not in the Jason way. Not in the burn every record, scrub your DNA from the world kind of way. I just stopped existing where it counted. New number. New name. New address. Small town. Population under 300. And once a month, I power on the drive. Watch the green light flicker. And leave it off. Because the truth is, some files don't need to be opened. Some names don't need to be known. Sometimes, silence is the only way to survive. But every time I close my eyes, I still hear it. Carly's voice, but not her words. Jason's calm, but not his truths. The click of a tracker being pulled from my car. The knock on my door. The first mistake. And now, every sound I hear at night. I wonder, is someone watching? Or are they waiting? 1 month ago, I got a voicemail. Blocked number. No message. Just static. And in the background? Footsteps. Then a whisper. Not Jason. Not Carly. A voice I didn't recognize. It said, Montreal was a test. And then, click. So I ask you, if you found a tracker under your car, what would you do? Would you call the cops? Would you confront the person who put it there? Or would you do what I did? Would you mail it to another country and wait for the fallout? Because I did. And now, I don't run. I don't fight. I watch. Just like they did. Because I learned one thing from all of this. Disappearing isn't about being invisible. It's about becoming the thing no one looks for. And trust me, they're still looking. But they'll never find me. Because I don't exist anymore. Not as the woman I was. Not as the name they hunted. I'm something else now. A ghost in the system. A shadow in their algorithm. An error they'll never fix. And if they're watching, I hope they're scared. Because I learned from the best. And next time, I'm not the one being followed. I'm the one setting the trap.